our citizens to our Danville City Commission regular meeting. Today's date is Monday, February 26, 2024. The time is 5:30 p.m. Don't set your clock by that. We go with that clock on the wall back there, but it's 5:30 p.m. city time. Okay? And so I'd like to call the meeting to order. We're going to be led in a moment of prayer by our Commissioner Siri, and then after that, we're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by the Boyle County Quick Recall Team.
All right.
Somebody said we had some regional champs in our presence tonight, so that's great. Okay, Commissioner Siri?
Sure. So there's always some tragedies in our world, but there's always some good things too, and that's folks that have lived a long life, giving back to their community, sometimes in volunteerism, sometimes in running businesses that are good for the community. Charlotte Henson, who's an icon with the Pioneer Playhouse, passed away last week. I'd like to take a moment of silence, think about her and her family and the other folks that you know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You young folks want to come forward? Don't be shy. We don't bite or anything. Right? It might look like that, but we don't really bite them, right? You don't finish, don't leave, okay? Stay right there, all right?
We're all touching. Okay, yeah.
Leg over there, leg over there.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm in elementary school. Salute, right? All right, somebody start us off.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good. Don't stay right here. Don't go no. Stay right here. Sir. We're going to modify our agenda since we have these. Since we have these, I should say, former middle school kids who are now in high school, and they're on the Boyle County High School Quick Recall Team, and they just recently became regional champs. And we're to say congratulations, but we're also going to say we're going to give you all a victory send-off tonight because on March the 8th, you're competing at the state level. Somebody told me all the secrets about you, right? But they also might need to call your two coaches, Julie Taylor and Eli Edwards, to join us, if you would. We don't want to leave the brains behind the team out there, right? So we'd like to say congratulations, and at the same time, the City Commission would also like to give you all a little token of appreciation. It's a miniature, a 29-karat gold keychain, which is the key to the city of Danville. So we have keychains to give all of you all and say congratulations and wish you well. And Miss Miriam, you want to say something? I knew I was a teacher. I knew that.
Just the quick recall team.
Uh-oh.
Several parts. So
Okay.
the academic team.
All right.
is a quick recall.
Yes, ma'am.
Written assessment.
Yes, ma'am. Science, social studies?
Which is, you can take a test in science, social studies, language arts, arts and humanities, and math. Thank you, that's the other thing. It consists of people who do written composition, so they'll be writing a timed writing piece. And we had people go forward in all these areas. We have also a future problem-solving team of 4 kids who are given a scenario, and they have to write a booklet in 2 hours just solving this problem. And we have a new addition. Oh, we have 2 more things. We have scenario writing, where they write a future scenario. And then we have a new addition this year is our community solving problem team. And they have identified an issue within our community that they've written about and they're solving, and they're going to the state level too, so.
Can we tell us what the topic was?
They chose, Mason's on that team, and they chose voter registration.
Oh.
So they want, they're targeting the seniors of Will County High School to make sure they're informed and register to vote when they turn 18.
Wow. Let's give them all. Yes, sir.
And can I just say one
Yes,
quick
sir.
thing? So this team,
had a record year. This is the most students we've ever sent to state. That was a record held back in the 80s. This is our first time quick recall advancing to state since 1998. So it's been a long time since they've done that. It was our first ever regional championship in quick recall in history. We are back-to-back future problem-solving champions. So we won regions 2 years in a row. So the FPS team gets to go back, and it was only our fourth region championship overall in school history. So they broke records at middle school, they've done it at high school, so this group of kids is particularly special, and they've worked hard to achieve what they've done.
I noticed they didn't ask the mayor to come and participate with them, right?
Yeah.
Smart group. Well, let's give them a round of applause. And if you all would follow my commissioners down front, we want to get a group picture with you young folks, and then we'll give you all the key to the city.
All right.
You have some team members who are not here tonight? Okay, be sure we get one of these members.
Yeah, we might need two.
High school kids, right? Hey, cool.
Probably, if you guys could just switch in a little bit. I'm just, I'll put her in here. All right, I think I got you all. Ready? 2, 3, big smile.
Good work. All right. I'll see you at graduation. Dr. Lloyd, one of these days. Great. How did you see you? Any seniors?
Wouldn't have done me any good.
So, are they just there for one day?
No, wait, where'd they go? I didn't give them permission to leave. Come on back here, look. No, we understand they're busy. We appreciate it. And again, congratulations and good luck, March the 8th.
Mayor, I was thinking about how they get a problem to solve in 2 hours.
Yes.
I can see us try to do that.
Well,
Maybe 2 weeks.
yeah, we was, Commissioner Call and I were discussing that. We were back in middle school and high school. They didn't even have an academic team back then, right? Nope. All right. Well, that's good. Okay. Commissioner, I'd like to ask permission be granted for already modifying our agenda. So I'd like to get a motion to approve the agenda as modified with moving the quick recall recognition up to number 1. And also like to include in your motion to remove item 14, the police department update, which is not going to be this evening. So can I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you all. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, likewise. Thank you for amending the agenda. So at this stage in our meeting, we have an item that's called Hear the Public, and those who are in attendance who desire to speak to their commission can do so tonight. And at this juncture in our meeting, you're only allowed to speak to us about items that are on the agenda. There will be a second opportunity to speak to us about other things that are not on our agenda. So anyone desiring to speak to us about items on the agenda? You got your hand up, young man? Just joking, look at him. So let's move on then. So next item is the pinning ceremony of Sergeant Ben Ray. An Assistant Chief, Dawn, is going to do the pinning or bring forth the officer, right? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Tonight, we'd like to recognize Officer Ben Ray on his recent promotion to Sergeant. Sergeant Ray is a 9-year veteran of the agency. He's been a field trainer for us. He's been a baton instructor for us. He's been a taser instructor for us, and kind of a jack of all trades for us here at the police department. For the last 4.5 years, he has been our school resource officer at Danville High School. So we've got a lot of SROs. That's a giant responsibility, and Ben has kind of stepped up and been the de facto leader of the our other school resource officers, including his father-in-law, Merle Baldwin, who is also one of our school resource officers. So talent is a good problem to have, and we have that here at the Danville Police Department. So when we promoted Sergeant Ray to sergeant, that was a very tough decision. There was a lot of great candidates, but Sergeant Ray set himself apart, and we're glad to welcome him to the command staff. Talk about being unselfish and wanting to be a part of this agency and lead people, because he went from the SRO with a great schedule, being home by 4 o'clock every day, holidays off, to getting promoted and me saying, welcome to third shift, they need you. And without hesitation, that's where he is. So, Emily, if you'll do the honors for us, please,
All right,
and I'll get out of the way.
be nice.
You need a hammer?
Is he nervous or is she nervous?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both, right?
They got pinned on upside down, so she didn't want to be that. Concentrating very hard.
All right. I thought you wanted to say something.
Oh, thanks to Chief Doan and all the admin. I love Danville, born and raised in Danville, Danville High School graduate. Supervision's always something I wanted to do, and luckily I've been given the opportunity, so hopefully I can live up to the expectations.
Thank you, sir. And I'll go ask, so I want to give you a round of applause. Congratulations. I don't know if this has ever happened in the history of Danville, but I did give a good guy, another good guy, a key to the city. Congratulations. I appreciate that. All right. Thank you, guys, and you're welcome to stay as well now. Everybody runs out.
Run out the back.
They're running out the back. All right, let's move along. Mr. Steve Hoffman, would you come forward? We'd like to read a proclamation in honor of your 50 years of service at the Norton Center here in Danville, Kentucky. But I'm going to try to read this. A proclamation in honor of the Louisville Orchestra. Whereas on Friday, March the 8th, the Louisville Orchestra will, with special guest artist Michael Cleveland and Flamekeeper, provided a number of impactful activities that engaged with many different parts of the Boyle County community as part of their In Harmony tour, made possible through a partnership with the Kentucky General Assembly in conjunction with the Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet. And whereas the Louisville Orchestra provided a workshop with students from the Kentucky School for the Deaf with a heart vibration demonstration, and whereas Teddy Abrams, conductor of the Louisville Orchestra, discussed the efforts it takes to win a Grammy Award with music students from Center College, and whereas the Louisville Orchestra None of these things have happened yet. That's what's wrong. And whereas the Louisville Orchestra will visit with students from Boyle County, whereas the Louisville Orchestra received a proclamation and key to the city from the city of Danville, the mayor, during a special meet and greet from Boyle County community leaders and Louisville Orchestra leadership. And whereas the Louisville Orchestra participated in the Artists with Special Needs Roundtable Forum that featured Grammy-winning fiddler Michael Cleveland, the special guest artist on the In Harmony Tour, along with Boyle County artists with special needs, cultural organization leaders, and others interested in equity. And whereas the Louisville Orchestra will visit the Boyle County Public Library for a free family concert, and whereas the Louisville Orchestra Ensemble will perform a free concert in partnership with Mid-Kentucky Arts in Springfield, Kentucky, and, wow, whereas the Louisville Orchestra artist in residence, Tanner Porter, composed an original piece of music for students in the Heritage Area Strings Program, and the students will perform the new piece in the audience before the Louisville Orchestra performers in the Norton Center on March the 8th, right? Whereas the Louisville Orchestra, under the baton of Teddy Abrams, will perform a sold-out free public concert at Seminary College's Norton Center for the Arts, and now therefore be it resolved that the City of Danville Board of Commissioners recognizes the cultural and educational contributions of community engagement and services provided by the Louisville Orchestra to the Danville Boyle County community. Wow. Congratulations. They're going to be busy, aren't they?
That is all one day.
Wow.
They will be split, divide and conquer. They are going to be busy, but they wanted to do as much as they could in our community, and we said, challenge accepted.
Wow. Commissioners. Anyway, you want to say something about the 50? I know a little secret about the 50. Don't you want to say something about the 50?
You mean it's the 50th anniversary of the Norton Center?
Yes, sir.
And we just announced that we have a special guest speaker coming in April, Henry Louis Gates Jr., who is the host of Finding Your Roots. The brother of the mayor. No, I'm not going to say that.
Well, I thought you might highlight that Center College is celebrating 50 years. And 50 years ago, I arrived in Danville, but also 50 years ago, the Louisville Orchestra performed.
That's right. This is the very first, one of the first shows in the history of the Norton Center.
Coming back in honor of the 50. Well, it is a big ordeal for our community. The Louisville Orchestra spend all that time in our community, with all of our students of all different ages. And they're coming back after the inaugural year of the Louisville Center 50 years ago. I wasn't there, but. All right, this young lady right here. She's got the big camera with all the things. Yes, sir. You want to say something? You good? All right. Congratulations. Thanks. Can't wait till March the 8th. Right? Everything busy, aren't you? Yeah. I kept saying, why am I reading this thing? All you March the 8ths in here. City Commission, we need to entertain a motion to approve the proclamation in honor of the Louisville Orchestra.
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Hearing no further comments or questions, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes of the previous meetings. Chair would like to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of 2/12 and 2/13/2024 as presented.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments? Any additions or deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, minutes are approved. Next reading is the first reading of ordinance 2027, planning and zoning text amendment for architectural heritage. realignment.
This is the first reading of ordinance number 2027, an ordinance of the City of Danville, Kentucky, amending Articles 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7 of the zoning ordinance, Boyle County, the cities of Danville, Junction City, and Perryville, in order to administratively incorporate the Danville Architectural Heritage Board and all rules and regulations pertaining thereto.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a motion?
I move to approve ordinance number 2027.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? If not, Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Caudle,
Yes.
Commissioner Peak,
Yes.
Mayor Atkins.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Saris.
Yes.
Thank you all. Next item is Resolution 2024-02-2601, homelessness joint resolution. City Manager, Mr. Coffey?
I was struggling how to present this in terms of, so it's best just to do a discussion. Items 6 and 7 are really aligned with each other. They go together, although they do two different things. But I would like to draw your attention to the memo. Want to make sure you had an opportunity to see that on agenda item 6 in your packet. There's a memo provided by the city clerk describing the discussion that we've had with some of our local folks. And it really started with the homeless forum. The discussion that we had there enabled me to be inspired based on what feedback I'd heard. Also, Brent Blevins at the Health Department had a similar thought process. He asked for a meeting between myself and one of the magistrates, Mr. Sleeper, who was actively engaged in the discussion on their side. And we tossed around the idea of trying to align the funding with some of the services and how can we make that better. And simply put, right now, we make those agencies that are dealing with social needs that the commission is deemed necessary to contribute dollars to. So for example, the example I've given the most is the food pantry, for example. You've given money to the food pantry for years. I know I said for example right then like 5 times, so I apologize. But the food pantry is, the city commission has given money to the food pantry for a while. The county has. The United Way, they also go to the United Way for funding. And so as we looked at our agencies with that mindset, it seemed to us that there can be some alignment for efficiency if we just have as a community those enterprises that are deemed worthy to make one application and go through one process. So right now, they spend an inordinate amount of time filling out the city's application. They fill another application that's very similar out with the county. They fill another one out with the Heart of Way, with the United Way, and they have to present to all of them. The health department, there's some agencies that the health department contributes, not necessarily agencies, but services that they contribute to. And so in a broader discussion of homelessness, how a lot of these agencies, when you look at the problems that were identified that were aligned with homeless insecurity, really is what the word we came up with, which actually aligns better with what was presented at the forum. And then also food insecurity. It seemed like we were coming up with the idea. And then Commissioner Saris had separately had the idea to bring in the United Way. And so we had a separate meeting with them. And Brent, we had a meeting with the county judge at the time. We had the health department there as well as a board member on the health department. So we all sat down together and we came up with this approach, which has resulted in 2 resolutions. And so what the resolutions do is the first resolution, which is 2024-02-2601, is a homeless resolution that is a joint resolution between the city and county, where we are acknowledging that we will jointly put money towards our homeless efforts to the United Way. In order, any money that you allocate to support the services related to homeless insecurity, we will push that into the United Way program analysis. So what the United Way, and Stephanie's here, and she may want to talk about what their process is, but they're very program-oriented, and they have an equally robust audit of the money that they distribute, and probably better accountability in my mind, strictly because that's their primary focus. And for us, it gets, when we do them individually, we will do them at a scale where we just get one report on the year. If we're making a $1,000 contribution, we'll just end up with one report on that. And for them, it's more programmatic. They don't award money to an agency per se. They award money to an agency's program idea. And so there's a little vetting around that idea that's probably better than what we've done. So we want to lean into that as an opportunity to improve the outcomes. And so they measure outcomes, and then they seek reporting on those outcomes back to them quarterly, I think. Isn't that right? Biannually. And so we felt like that was sufficient for our recommendation. And so the first resolution authorizes the United Way to coordinate those agencies that are seeking money from the city and county for homeless services that are tied to homeless, the amelioration of homeless issues, homeless insecurity and food insecurity issues. We will run those through the United Way. And so then you all decide the money that you will decide this year. If that's the case, rather than dealing with 5 or 6 individual agencies, you will decide a lump sum to give to the United Way for that issue, right? And then what that outcome will be is that you will have 2 members of the commission operate with United Way in the distribution or the final decision for how that money is to be allocated on their allocation panels that they have, as I think is how they describe those. And so there's some based on the services that you provide. You would have a health service if you're in that side of the matter. And so you would go towards that panel, which may have a little bit different makeup. But what we would like to do is get ultimately 2 members of the commission to serve as the United Way directs on an individual panel or all the panels, right? The second resolution then steers the remainder of our agencies that come to the city that ask for money that provide some other social benefit. And so if you'll go to in the packet for item 6, if you'll go to the last page of that, page 10, there's a sheet that the city clerk took and broke out who's funding where and then where they would end up if you make the decision to pass both resolutions. So the first, for example, has CASA, Greenhouse 17, Nursing Home, Ombudsman, Bluegrass Community Action. Those agencies that are listed in that first category currently receive money from the city, county, and United Way. And so those agencies, what the city clerk would simply do is to tell them, you will not fill out an application with the city this year. You will fill an application out with the United Way. And so then again, the city commission would have 2 members that would sit on the panel ultimately to decide the same allocation process. Now, what we would recommend is for those agencies, if you pull in the senior citizens out, which is at the bottom, their number is 73,000 this year. The other agencies in total are 27,300. And so what we would do is suggest to you on our first draft of our budget proposal to you is, we would ask you the question for those agencies, do you want to send $27,000 there this year or some other number to address those agencies? The same thing, the ones below are, for example, the Bull Mercer Helping Hands, Full Circle Behavioral Health, Shepherd's House. These also, we would direct those to the United Way as well. I think they're do not receive funding from all 3 agencies, but those are ones that meet the criteria for homelessness and basic community services that we would recommend going to the process with the United Way, right? So that first two categories, that middle category receives about 14,500 now. So we would suggest that in total, you send to the United Way about $41,800 plus the contribution to the Senior Citizen Center, which is $73,000, right? The allocation panel with the United Way then would look at the applications, and that panel would decide how that money is divided to those agencies based on their request. Does that make sense?
Are we putting for that in the budget, I guess? Or
So I would, right now, our beginning point would probably be a suggestion to you that you would put about 45,000 for all of those to start with and to see, because right now, all those agencies in total, you're funding to about the amount of 41,000. Okay? So that's kind of the baseline for us. Yeah, and granted, Senior Citizen Center is a separate number of 73,000, so I'm not including those in the larger list. So then, that leaves you some at the bottom, West T Hill Theater, Pioneer School, Pioneer Playhouse, the Brass Band Festival, the Arts Commission, Sister Cities, Civil Air Patrol, Martin Luther King, the Danville County African American Historical Society. Those agencies are really they're not providing the same social service per se that aligns with the United Way's mission. So you would still hear a funding request from those agencies. So so normally you would have an all-day community agency presentation process. Yours would be shortened to where it's just these ones at the bottom on that sheet. And then, of course, the EDC and the Airport Board and Planning and Zoning, that's it. Everybody else would go through the United Way process. The interesting thing is, again, is they all already make applications there that we identified.
So senior citizens make an application?
That's
They
the
don't.
one variation that doesn't,
Right.
that doesn't, yeah. So,
But they do have senior citizens services that do
Right.
apply through the United Way, which I think is the other critical point. So in looking at this to present to the commission, the other kind of big words to consider, I think, are cooperative, comprehensive approach to the issues that face our community and how they may be solved or addressed. And when we say that we have essentially a myriad of institutions that provide financial support without coordination or different levels of management and transparency in reporting, then you can see you would get vastly different results depending upon what is measured. So I think the selling point, if there's one to be made here on this, is not only efficiency of process. You take what is a relatively minor fraction of the city's budget, but absorbs an inordinate amount of staff and commission time to discuss the allocation of these resources, while important in the relative scheme of things, are a minor part of your budget. Yet you have a highly qualified organization in United Way that's already coordinating a cooperative community solution to these different social services that you already contribute to. And this allows a more focused approach where government services can allocate the funds, but then allow those that are in the better position to perhaps manage them and disperse them for particular missions in a comprehensive, cooperative manner, again, to flow the funds appropriately. The other point I think that's worth mentioning is that what the city manager is proposing is a one-year effort to see how, in fact, this does take place. There will be somewhat of a transition. However, if we have multiple units, like this year, we'll talk about homeless insecurity first. We've had a host of individuals with a host of good ideas come before the commission asking for various amounts of money for various projects. All of them are worthwhile to various degrees, I'm sure. However, if all of them could be directed to United Way, the city allocates the funds, and then those that are vested with the actual administrative oversight of that problem-solving issue in the community, then we think that's an appropriate spot for them to be. Senior citizens included. While we have other senior citizen services that seek funding through United Way, if it's going to be comprehensive for the community, it seems that it would make sense for all of the organizations that fit under one of the pillars that the United Way covers, that would be a good spot for it to be on a one-year basis, and then see how it works going forward, and then reevaluate.
It's very much a trial. So the way my mind worked when I'm at the homeless forum, when I'm hearing that discussion, community agency, the idea of community agency funding has been conflicted for the city commission since my time here. We have talked about, how do we do this? We need to eliminate this. The reason it has always been conflicted is because it's not your primary business, right? That's not what you do every day, is to provide $1,000 to the nursing home ombudsman. When you do that in the budget process, you think about that day, and really for the city commission, you guys are focused on water, sewer, police, fire, public works, the services, the bigger picture services. That's immediately where you're distracted back to. So that the reason the community agencies has always been, every budget that I've been exposed to, it has always been the same discussion. Well, we got to do community agencies. Everybody supports it, but it's not our primary focus at the city, right? So this enables you to support it in the way that you want. If you want to invest more money in community agencies, you simply up the amount. But it aligns the funds with an agency that has a common objective, and that is their primary focus, is dealing with those issues related to life in your community that manage those issues as a focus differently than you do, right? So it seemed that the alignment, then when we spoke with the health department and spoke with Ms. Blevins, it seemed to make a lot of sense. I know the county they liked the idea as well. It makes a lot of sense because you're asking most of the time a volunteer board that's just in it to do what their objective is. You're asking them to come and to a city commission meeting. They got to schedule, they got to prepare a presentation they got to do the same thing at the fiscal court. Then they got to go do it again, which actually is a more difficult process with the United Way. It just seems like that it's an unnecessary step for a volunteer board that's just trying to provide family services a lot of times. And I'm trying to simplify it because it's really that simple.
You've done a good job with that. And I think two things I want to point out is that another good thing for our community, you'd have the city and the county and the health department and United Way looking at a community-wide issue together, not individually. And the second thing I want to point out is that because it has become a community-wide concern, we as a commission probably need to seriously think during the budget process of increasing our donation to this project, this topic. So I'm really in favor of giving it the year to try it and see how it works. We're not, for taxpayers' benefits, we're not losing control of the money. We're going to be sitting on the panel that does, along with city and county and health department folks, we're going to be making decisions about these agencies and what they receive from us as a government body. It's just that city and county will be doing it together, not individually. I think
you all have lamented that many different times. Well, what's the county doing? How much is the county giving to so-and-so?
Yeah.
Right? Well, you're going to be on the panel with your other elected officials, and you all will make that decision. Whoever's assigned to that will be making that decision collectively.
And the health department, because I think that's so important to me because they're involved in it. They see it every day. They can surely give us some direction. So I applaud you all for bringing this proposal to us. And with that said, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-02-2601, which is the homelessness joint resolution. And then I'd look at my city attorney and ask, can I put those two, 2402, 2602, community agencies funding process. Can we do both of those resolutions together?
I think we should vote on them separately,
Okay.
but we can go ahead and put you down as a motion for the second one as well. If you just want to go ahead and get a second, we'll just take two different votes.
Can I do a point of clarification, just so that I'm clear too?
Yes, ma'am.
On the second resolution with the social services, that would be somebody sitting on all of the allocation panels throughout that, correct?
What? Yeah, say it again, man. Some
Yeah,
of us,
Some of those administrate, just so Stephanie, to be clear, the city will appoint an adequate number of members to serve on the panels in which the funds will be under whatever pillar or issue that's
And there would be
appropriate.
no designation or earmarking of money?
No,
for
that's
any of the
correct.
social services? And once you all contribute to this, then you become part of the United Way, so you're not just funding the agencies that you've normally funded, but you're funding all the agencies that United Way funds
That's a
from
good
Boyle
point.
County.
Yes, that's a good point.
well,
I'll second the motion.
Both motions, sir?
First one.
First one, okay.
okay, I was just trying to,
So you have a first and second, Mayor, on the
Yes,
homeless insecurity joint resolution that's ready for a vote.
all right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed likewise, motion carries. And I've already made a motion for the second one. Is there a second for 02-2602? Community agency funding process.
I'll second that. And I'd also like to just interject that in about 2006, because I'm really old, I've been here a long time,
Oh.
the idea of letting United Way do some of our allocations was brought up at that time, because it makes sense because of their process, and they're good at it, and they know what they're doing, but I can't remember why it was shut down, but it didn't even get,
I think you made a great point there, Commissioner Caudell. I think that it kind of lost its way in that conversation because it kind of seemed like it wasn't a trust level. Trust levels greatly increased, so compliment to the leadership over there.
Yes.
it's
There's been a
good idea.
motion and a
Yeah.
second for 2602. Any other questions or comments?
I like the accountability, you know, Stephanie, the reports that you get back, and I mean, I would like to personally see reports come back to the city on the, you know, after the allocations are made and what's going on, because we don't see those now until the next year, so.
Yeah, we can work that out with Stephanie. Maybe she provides
Right.
an update for the commission of all the activity at one time. Because, I mean, it's not really, and I'll say this again, it's not really fair to somebody getting $500, making them come back to the commission to, you know, until that, I mean, this would be better. I mean, it'd be better for those folks trying to do good things and believing that's the spirit of what they're acting in.
Yeah.
And so what we will do is, we will notify the agencies that came to the city. Ashley and I will coordinate that tomorrow. She'll notify those folks, and we'll coordinate the process with Stephanie to make sure those agencies that sought funding from the city last year, we'll make sure they get notification of the change, and then we'll
You do
start-
still need a vote on this, Mr.
Right.
City Manager.
Yes, yeah.
So,
We do have a first and second, that's okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments on the second one, the community agency funding process? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed likewise, motion carries. Thank you all.
You know, as a final point on that matter, I think we're constantly seeking manners in which we can become more efficient and more collaborative. And those are hard areas to achieve in both regards. But this is one that seems like it's somewhat of a slam dunk in true community partnership. The city can't serve all the needs that are presented before it, but we can certainly help coordinate services and partner to see some objectives made. And this is an easy thing for the city and county and citizens and business to collaborate fully together on, and again, a systematic way. So this isn't a small matter as far as a community objective. And I think in search of grant opportunities and other potential outside funders, this is the type of thing that those donors seek, is full community support. And there's no better way to set up our community for those types of dollars than doing what you're doing today.
Well stated, sir. Did I just agree with him? He's an attorney. Oh, yeah, I guess I did, right?
I think you do every day. Well, no, not you, but most.
Okay, do we just have the city manager's report?
Yeah, I'll be short tonight. The big thing for me is February the 28th, Wednesday is Kelsey Day in Frankfurt. I'll coordinate, I'll give you those schedules out tomorrow, but we'll be leaving here probably about 8-ish Wednesday morning for those of you who want to ride up. March 4th is the COVID memorial. Melanie will be sending out communication on that. That's at 10 a.m. I think at Constitution Square, and I think the county is electing to participate to jointly
Good.
support that. And so I think that's a positive. We will do a city public budget workshop on March the 4th at 4 to 6 here. Or is that where? Yeah, it was at here? Yeah. That's open to the public, and we've seen that advertised. March the 6th at 4:30 p.m. will be our homeless forum public discussion, a follow-up. And so we want to report, so the action that you took tonight with the resolutions will be one of the things that we will report as a action from the awareness that has been made or raised. There will be a joint city-county parks meeting on March the 8th. Do you have a time for that, Ashley?
9 to 12 is what we have planned.
And then March 11th will be the next regular meeting. So there's a fairly busy couple weeks.
Yeah. Would you, for March the 6th, the homelessness update, I assume will be an afternoon, evening type?
4:30 p.m. is what we're
4:30?
targeting. When I talked to the police chief,
Okay. Could I request, or could we request that someone give us a debriefing on the warming shelter that we had back in January?
Yes.
Any other comments or questions for our city manager? Wow, he's getting off real easy tonight. Okay, well, let's move right along then. The next item on our agenda is that this is Hear the Public, and we recognize citizens who are here. They talk to us about things that are not on the agenda. I always try to preference that the city attorney will direct us about things that we are allowed to listen to. Whether you be recognized, you go to the podium and identify yourself, and we'll give you up to 3 minutes to talk to us about an issue that's not on our agenda tonight. So, yes, sir, you first. Young man, come on up.
My name is Mark Henson. I'm here representing Grace Baptist Church of Danville, Kentucky. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to present a request on behalf of Grace Baptist Church and also some of the residents of Old Stanford Road, which is out near the sludge farm. So I'm going to be quick because I've only got 3 minutes. So the subject is...
You can leave copies of what you're talking about.
I will.
don't you?
I've got
Okay,
it.
great.
Matter of fact, I've got copies
Okay,
for you
good.
right now.
Okay, well, I always try to tell people they can leave. No, yes, right. He says, my kind of man, right? Thank you, sir. Good.
So, yes, the subject is the maintenance of Old Stanford Road. Grace Baptist Church has submitted requests through our attorney, Brendan Shevlin, Health and Law Office, to both the Boyle County Judge Executive, Showbottom, and the Danville City Attorney, Mr. Dexter, regarding the subject of the road maintenance. I present to the commission copies of those letters and the supporting documents for those letters. When the city purchased the property of the sludge farm in 1991, the city agreed to upgrade the road and the bridge on the property. The city was to bring the bridge and road up to county standards and then hand over to the county. The county agreed to take over maintenance after the road and bridge were brought up to the county standards. The City of Danville's requirements were established by the Board of Adjustments meeting on October 16, 1990. These requirements were included in Plat Slide 457B, attachment to Deed Book 289, page 90. In short, the county's response, and you see the attached letter from Christopher Herron, has been that City of Danville has not upgraded the road and has not met Condition 1 of the conditional use permit. Therefore, the county wouldn't take it over. So the The city's response from Mr. Dexter, and I think this was an informal response to Mr. Shevlin, and you can correct me later if I'm wrong, but is that the road has been upgraded to the county standards. So we're at a point here of nobody taking responsibility for this. So I've met with Judge Bottom to discuss this. She indicated that requests have been made to Mr. Coffey for evidence, work orders, contracts, bonds, receipts, whatever, that the city has fulfilled the requirements, but such evidence has not been received to date. Judge Bottom has recently driven the road herself and agrees repairs are needed, and I would urge you to do the same. The city of Danville has operations on the sludge farm for over 30 years. It was bought in 1991. The heavy trucks have taken a toll on the road and bridge that have not been maintained for over 30 years. The disrepair of the road and bridge presents significant safety hazards to the public, and public safety should be the priority for us all. This young lady here and her family use this road frequently to exercise on, and she was just telling me that they can't ride scooters or anything like that because it's really bad. So our request, provide a timeline for presenting evidence that the condition number 1 of the conditional use permit has been fulfilled. Give us a time. When will you do it? Deliver this evidence to the county judge executive and copy Mark Henson. Got my contact information there. That would be assurance that it's been done. Number 3, if the requested evidence cannot be provided, then outline the city's corrective action plan to remedy the long overdue condition, number 1, to bring the road and the bridge up to county standards. And number 4, please provide a written response for this request by March the 8th. That's a common date, I've heard that. So by March the 8th, I would like to have a response one way or the other. And if not, if we want to talk about this more, put it on the agenda next time, okay?
Sure.
But let me know if it's going to be on the agenda. So direct all communications to me. You have my contact information there. So appreciate the time. And really what we want is we want to get this road maintained. Nothing's happening. It's like pass the buck. Nobody wants to take it. But what we need is the evidence that it was in fact brought up to the county standards. The county has agreed to take over the maintenance of it. And that's all we're asking is to do that.
And since 1991. Wow.
1991.
Okay.
What was the weight of those trucks that went, those heaviest trucks that went across?
I don't know, but,
I think I can respond. I think since we have some people, why don't we make a quick response?
Yeah,
I think it's good for the benefit of the public to know this. Obviously, 1991 was a time in which, we're dealing, it's not like it was 2 years ago and we can pull the records. None of us in this room none of us in this room were on staff at that point in time. We will say this under normal circumstances, so we are most likely not going to be able to provide evidence that any conditional use permit condition was achieved. However, when conditional use permit items are not complied with, there is a burden upon the agency to make it known that the condition has failed and won't be accepted. We have no evidence of that. So the city's position has been and will remain that it was, in fact, done absent evidence to the contrary. If the county can show that they provided evidence that the city failed to live up to its obligations, then that would be a different matter. But until that time, the city is precluded constitutionally from expending funds on that roadway, as it is outside of the city limits of the city of Danville, and tax dollars cannot be spent on that roadway. It is in the county. It's in the county's purview to update and maintain and fix if it's decrepit, which I have no doubts to believe that it's not, but it is under their purview, not the city of Danville, in which you need to seek redress. So that's our position. I've advocated that to council. We'll do that again publicly now, but we do not intend to provide any further written reports on the matter. We have communicated with the judge executive and council on that matter, and it's good for you to know what the city's position is. So we have a constitutional preclusion of spending monies to update that road outside of the city of Danville.
So if I understand what you're saying is, since no one came to the city and said, hey, you haven't done what you agreed to do, nobody challenged the city on that, and that was 30 years ago or 31 years ago, that now the city says, tough darts.
Not exactly in those words. The city's position is that it has information and belief that those repairs were, and it was brought to condition at that time, and we have no evidence to the contrary of it.
Well, can we share something with the county so that the county's willing to do it, okay? They need something that says we've done it, okay? They'd be more than glad to do it, but they need something other than word of mouth or some documentation that says maybe a letter from you to the county.
I think the minutes of this meeting can reflect it in the county, and the city clerk's minutes can reflect the conversation, and those minutes can be provided to the fiscal court.
Okay.
That should suffice.
Just keep in mind, this road has been in disrepair for over 30 years, all right? The city has used it, you know, others have used it. We have residents that live there. We have a church that's there. This road needs to be repaired, and right now, nobody is willing to take ownership and let's do something, okay? We need to get something done. Hopefully, this is a city of, you know, and county of can-do, right? We need some help.
Yes,
So
sir.
your help in supporting us to get this moving along would be great, because we have, you know, I'd hate to see one of these children get hurt on that road, or somebody get hurt on that bridge that's had a piece of metal laying on it for who knows how many years. And who put
And to that
big
regard, the
piece
city as a property owner, which is what we are there, we're not acting as the city of Danville at that site. We are a property owner in the county at that point, and by virtue of that, would like to see the road upgraded as well.
Yeah. I mean, Mr. Coffey, how long has that piece of metal been laying over that edge of that bridge?
I don't know, to be honest with you. You know, when I came, I was told, so I was shown that property, and at the time, you know, I was told that the city's done everything it needed to do. There was some issue with the development out there that I'm remembering. I don't know all those things, but I was told that the city did its part at the time, and it's been a long time ago. And so to the attorney's point, I think he's did a good job trying to address it in a probably a more clear way than I could. But at the end of the day, it is a county road, and you know, we can't go out into the county and fix that. We can show up as a property owner and ask in the same way, but that is a real problem in this situation for.
Yep. As a registered professional engineer, which you are.
Yes, sir.
And I am, Mr. Morgan is, I presume, the number one thing for a professional engineer is public safety. This is a public safety issue. And if we continue to play political football with it, then somebody's going to get hurt, and there's going to be severe consequence to that. When there's lawsuits.
And I
or
think
death.
we've had enough conversation on this tonight for here the public, but I will end it on this. The city desires not to play political football. We have a constitutional preclusion from spending money outside of the city of Danville. City of Danville tax monies cannot be spent outside of the municipal service boundary. So to the extent it is a public safety issue, which we're not negating, your claim for relief is duly and properly filed with the Boyle Fiscal Court as a county roadway. So with that, we do need to move on. Your time has expired. Thank you for bringing the issue before us. We've made our public statement to it. And Mayor, you're free to continue in this section of the meeting.
Well, I just want to, normally you don't get that kind of feedback, good or bad, but we were just discussing, we're going to go out and look at the road ourselves, what little it might work, but we need, first time I've heard anything about it, so appreciate that. Are there other folks here, the public? I thought this lady here had heard.
Yes, our witness, I was coming up third, if you're ready.
Miss-
Right on.
Well, you got to come up here, I'll put your mask back up.
My leg is hurt. That's why I ain't up there. And this big truck is coming up Main Street, not almost size like this car. You need to stop your truck and come through town.
Are you talking about Second Street, South Second Street?
No,
We want to get you on the records while we want you to have the microphone.
I was coming from 3rd Street by the hospital, hitting Main Street.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
made a left, and this car was over on Main Street going straight, and this truck, big old truck, was trying to turn, almost sideswiped that woman's car. And these roads need to be fixed down there by, on Main Street by Center Cafe, and on Lexington Avenue by the stoplight, and when you run into, Maple Avenue by that light. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. When you arrive at the meeting and you want to be, you have something you want to say, try to get yourself a seat up front, because we don't want you hollering out to us from the back row.
I'm in so much pain, you still can hear me like.
I know, but if we ask everyone else to come up to the podium, I got to ask you to come up too. I'll give you a message to Mr. Hunt. He'll come up and say it for you. Somebody. We just got to keep proper. All right. I appreciate you coming. I do, okay? Anyone else want to speak to the public? When they speak to us from the public, I should say. All right, let's move along then. Thank you, guys. The next item is the payment of bills. Oh, I skipped commissioner comment. Yes, Ms. Peak, commissioner comments. I had it marked. Any comments from the commission?
I just want to say congratulations to Tony on becoming the 12th Region Coach of the Year. No, I mean Referee of the Year.
Referee of the year.
And then also acknowledge like all of our employees, because I think Friday's National Employee Appreciation Day. So I want to say thank you to all of them, everybody that works with the city.
Huge bonuses,
Yeah.
huge bonuses. Stop by Earl's office, he's got it.
Anyone else? It's the first meeting we've had since we did the streetscape, reopening Main Street. I want to thank the city staff and Mel, and thank all the vendors and all the downtown merchants, and just anyone and everyone who had some input and some assistance in making that such a grand occasion, especially to the vendors who provided the food after the ribbon cutting. Other comments? Let's move along then. Now, can I go to payment of the bills?
I'll make a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $216,858.15 as presented.
Second.
Thank you all. Any questions or comments on the bills? If not, all those in favor of paying the bills, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, likewise. Thank you, the motion carries. Ms. Compton, you have the next two items, revenue discussion and security agreement.
Yes. So before I start really quick, like Earl mentioned, we are having a budget open house for the public to come in and ask questions. It won't really, there'll be a few like things visually to see, but it'll really be for folks to ask questions, specific questions about how our budget works, things like that. We also have a budget survey that has been sent out via water bills. We've also got it available on our website. You can come in and pick up a paper copy for all of Danville citizens to provide their input on our budget. So if they have any questions about that, they can direct those to me. Okay, so for our revenue discussion, over the last 2 months or so, we've discussed revenue in a couple different ways. And as we're going into our budget season, we wanted to get a baseline budget revenue for our general fund set, because that really does drive changes to the entire budget. We have, over the last couple months, discussed potential changes to tax rates within the city, including property tax, insurance premium tax, and alcohol tax. We've also, over the last several months, there's some known increases coming to our budget, including compensation from police and fire, and we have a known debt service increase over the next year. So what I have prepared for you, which we have a slide visible for the public, but we also have a print copy because it is hard to read for anybody out in the public that would like one, is a draft version of our budgeted revenue for the upcoming fiscal year with essentially a column to estimate what we believe revenue will be if no changes to our revenue sources are completed, and a column with potential changes to see the dollar for dollar change of what that potential difference would be and where we potentially will be at the, within our budget. So there's kind of some asterisks to this, which I've included in your notes on the budget, is that, you know, because this is super early in the budget process, I did have to estimate your expenses at the same level of last year. So this is assuming that no changes to your expenses come about other than the ones that we've noted. And so total revenue with no changes to your, with no changes to any tax rate or anything like that, your total revenue is projected at $21,569,554. That is a $817,000 increase from last fiscal year. Primarily, that's going to be driven by your occupational taxes, which does increase typically with just the economic development, and a very slight increase for new property within your property taxes. We're also potentially going to see slightly more than we budgeted in fiscal '24 in your alcohol tax, just due to some new businesses in the area. So then we compared that to a estimate for the discussed potential changes to your property tax values, which would be a approximately $90,000 increase in revenue. I've also included, this did not make it into your packet until today, that was oversight on my part, a secondary chart that would actually give you, assuming that property values do not change at all, it would give you the property tax rate that would be assessed based on the DLG calculation. And in fact, your property tax rates, the actual rate would go down based on no changes to assessed value. That's how our property tax calculations work. So for instance, we've seen an actual decrease in the rate the last several years due to us taking the compensating rate. That trend continues whether we take the compensating rate or the 4% potential increase that we have discussed. When you consider your insurance premium, and on the larger sheet, I tried to highlight it in a different color to make it more noticeable. Your insurance premium rate at a 3% increase, I apologize, a 2% increase was in the health insurance premium rate was projected to increase your revenue by $380,000. And then flattening the alcohol premium tax rate to 5% across the board so that you did not have that staggered rate increases your revenue potentially by $200,000. So in total, that would be an increase from the prior year of $1.4 million. So $1,499,727.
Let me jump in here, if I may, Lee, and say this. You know, I want to make sure it's clear what I recommend from my perspective for you. That way you all have that in your pocket just to consider. You know, the city has a big budget, and there's a million different numbers in it, as you can see from what was included in your packet and what she printed. I'm going to do them one at a time. When we look at all the tax rates, what she put on your desk is the property tax rates. In 2017, 2018, for example, real estate was 0.144. And then last year it was 0.124. So it's gone down consistently by rate over that time period, which is, I think, 7 years. The recommendation for us is so you got two different options really on your property tax rate. You can either take the compensating rate, which is adjusting your new tax rate down to generate the exact same revenue statistically, right? So a lot of times you do see a minor increase in revenue off of that, usually less than $20,000 projected based on growth, right? So your revenue is flat, totally flat, other than the expansion into the real estate market. What's interesting, though, is that you can take up to a 4% increase on that revenue, which is, in this case, $90,000, and it still generates a lower tax rate than every year prior to and including the year we're in. So really, the question in front of you is how low do you set your property tax rate? If you keep driving it down, that really makes the city less sustainable in the long run. Let me say that. It was set years ago at that rate to generate the revenue needed to operate the city. And so just allowing the compensating rate is continuing to drive your property tax rate lower and lower, which does make it harder to, yes, you get a flat revenue, that's true, but and yeah, the value of the real estate in the market is going up, but so are the expenses that is necessary to protect and serve that market, right? Like, we have to acknowledge the cost to operate the police is much different than it was even 7 years ago, okay? And so what then the option is if you take the 4% increase in revenue, it's not a 4% increase in your tax rate, it's actually lowering the rate only to the point, though, that saves that $90,000 in net revenue. Does that make sense? So I think I would be remiss if I didn't recommend that, given the expenses that we know we are trying to absorb with the payroll for the police and fire that was just added. So I think I have to recommend not taking the compensating rate, but the 4% increase in revenue, but again, does yield a lower property tax rate for the individual user than this year. Okay? Now, the other one I think that I can speak with clarity on for my conscience in my head is your ABC rate. I don't think it's fair that you have packaged malt beverages, frankly, taxed at a different rate than you do your bricks and mortar restaurants. You can buy a container of alcohol in a store and not pay as much tax as you do in a bricks and mortar restaurant. That rate is 3% versus 5%. I don't think that's fair to do that. I think when that was originally established, and it's never been changed since it was established, I think we were the debate within the community was, well, we don't want to drive people out of the market. We didn't really know what alcohol because we were never wet. We were never moist. We weren't those things. So we really didn't know what the market did. But really what reports show is that a percentage of your population consume alcohol. So your market never really changes. It's based on your population. So if you've got 20% of your population that consumes alcohol, that's the same 20%, no matter where they buy it, no matter what. You're not necessarily going to change that market share, right? And so to me, the priority should be treating your businesses fair, treating your businesses the same, and right now they're not being treated the same, honestly. Your restaurants are paying, the partakers at a restaurant's paying a higher tax rate than those that are buying in a store. And so our recommendation is to levelize your ABC rate to 5% across the board. That would be a strong recommendation from us. That does generate some new revenue. I think she's noted about $200,000 total. What we included in your packet is the cost to manage the alcohol, which is this past year, the annual report that was done for '23 showed a revenue tied to all of your tax rates for alcohol at $698,000, while the expense was $1.2 million. So going wet has resulted in an impact to your operations of negative $500,000 at this point, resulting from alcohol. So levelizing that rate allows you to bear more of that burden directly from the user of that alcohol versus your overall general fund revenue, your property taxes, and your occupational taxes. Does that make sense? Now, that's the clear recommendation that I would recommend us establishing the budget based on those two things. Those two, I think, are passed with the budget. I know the
Yes.
property tax and, yeah.
Alcohol is passed with the budget at the same time. Property tax would be a little bit later, but we would need the budget essentially set based on one option or the other.
Yeah. And so then the other one, it comes back to the insurance premium. I couldn't rationalize that. I couldn't find, I will say this, the fire department does have EMTs now. We do medical dispatch from 911. Those additional services theoretically impact the cost of health insurance, right? So I can see a link to that. And right now, those policies do not necessarily contribute to those expenses. Now, saying that, I think Mr. Hunn's back there, and I think he was very quick to bring up a good point, is we don't want to discourage folks getting health insurance. That lent me towards, that's a policy decision for you guys. I don't necessarily have a clear recommendation on that, other than to highlight that as something that is set at zero, and you all need to really confirm for us what your opinion is on that. If that's the policy y'all want to adhere, we'll move on from that discussion and proceed accordingly. So the three big things that we identified as we looked through all of our tax rates that we saw some inequity in, and then also some logic in, is on your property tax. Go ahead and take in the 4% increase this year, which still results in a decrease in the property tax rate. Also levelize your alcohol tax to 5% across the board. That treats all of your sales equally and fairly. And then we defer to you on giving us a decision or a recommendation on what you want to do with the health insurance premium tax.
Any questions or comments?
When do you hope to have the baseline?
The expense side? Well, unfortunately, my city manager will be out of the office for a little bit, so I don't have a calendar yet. Staff are working on their individual budgets. They're due to me Thursday. So we could have a very rough draft fairly soon after that.
I didn't
but
know
that
when
also-
you needed to hear from.
I will say, let me say this. HR, Randy and I worked on the personnel cost side, which is the majority of our operating budget.
Mm-hmm.
That includes the health insurance, that includes the incorporating the payroll changes tied to the retirement system, which that rate went down this year for the city. That was a positive. So we've got that part of the budget baseline with no COLA in. I know what that looks like. And you're looking at somewhere between about a $600,000 to $700,000 increase net between your health insurance and the additional payroll that you added with the police. Right? So, you know, granted, that payroll is also in the utility side, and I know Marshall's got to do you know, he's picking up the sewer debt on the Lebanon Road trunk line. So he will have to do some adjustment to the sewer rates also, in addition to that COLA. I don't know what that looks like yet on the water side. So that's part of that $700,000. But certainly, which is why we felt, I felt like that you know, that I know we're upside down with alcohol, and it makes sense on the property tax. So I feel like those two numbers are a balance between if the total number that you get to if you do the health insurance too and zero, right? That gives us, I feel like, frankly, that gives us, I feel like as staff, a fighting chance to equalize that money in other parts of the budget, not knowing what that looks like yet. I know that our costs in personnel is going up. This is a little bit of bump in revenue then to compensate for that. And I think that's tries to balance those two numbers a little bit.
And so when do we need to tell you, Lee? Well, I guess we'll have other workshops where you'll.
We'll have other
beat it out of
budget
us?
workshops. I mean, I guess if you're comfortable with me making estimates based on an increase in, you know, any of them, I mean, I can theoretically
Right.
pop this column into every single time, but then you're gonna have to think about it every single time.
Right.
But the health insurance premium, you need to make a decision today because we will have to have 2 readings before March 21st, which will include a special called session.
Which is what, we brought it up a long time ago for that reason. You know, we've talked about that. And certainly we've migrated to the point where we need, you know, up or down on what your all's thoughts are. And like I said, there's 2 different schools of thought. One, you do have cost tied to health that is embedded in your 911, your fire, your police. That wasn't there before. But at the same time, by policy, are you discouraging folks from getting it? You know, so I think that's a decision you guys philosophically have to tell us, frankly. And we'll deal with whatever y'all decide. Like, we'll just try to make work whatever y'all decide.
So would you entertain a motion right now, or how do you
I
want to
think
do
it would
that?
be helpful for some direction. You don't have to take final action on the other 2. It'd be nice if we could start building the budget knowing that we're steering towards a 5% across the board on alcohol, right? I think that's a starting point. I think I see everybody's head nodding.
Why don't you qualify your motion for budget assumption purposes? I move that we assume what percentage for whatever rate you think.
Alcohol, right, and also then the 4% or compensating rate on property taxes. Let's handle those, and then you can deal with the health insurance on your own.
This is the first time we've really talked about the property tax. So, I mean, the alcohol, I can see it being leveled, but the property tax and the insurance premium, I mean, I'm not ready on the property tax. That's me. Because I'm just seeing it today.
Yep, I understand.
Why don't we just wait on?
So if you want to punt those 2, so the alcohol, let's do the alcohol one. Let's do that, and that gives Lee some direction. Do you have a motion like for budget assumptions on the alcohol tax? What rates would you accept?
I think the 5% across the board makes sense to me.
If you look at the stats they gave us, 5% is the average for cities our size in this area, and actually it's a lot less in some cities, so.
Right.
3% on beer sales versus 5% at the restaurant doesn't seem fair at all. So I agree, 5% again across the board.
And the projected income is $200K?
200,000 additional on the alcohol against an expense of 1.2 million last year.
I mean, because other cities are charging more for the alcohol, but we can't, correct? We can't change anything
We
after
can't
2019.
exceed, we
Right,
can't
can't
exceed
exceed
5%.
5. Right, okay.
The 4% property tax rate,
So it's not 4%, it's at a 4%, the actual rate doesn't increase because of the calculation to assessed values and growth.
and to keep it this,
So the actual property tax rate will go from 0.124 down to 0.1196.
Assuming absolutely zero changes to your property value. I want that asterisk in there.
and the only way
for
to
the public.
avoid that is to have, go for a larger increase, which also causes,
So simply put, the compensating rate,
Yeah.
if you accept that, which you have to do that as a minimum, the compensating rate will still be a decrease.
yeah, that's what I'm
A
saying.
4% increase is a decrease from the current rate. It's just not as great a decrease as the current rate would be with the compensating rate.
Do what?
Either,
So
whatever
there's
you
gonna be a
choose, there is a
decrease.
decrease.
Yeah, well,
Decrease
It's
in
just
the
the
property
level
tax.
in which it will decrease.
Well, let's discuss, well, maybe in our budget meeting, we need to discuss how to stop the decrease, which
mean,
means
I
it may
think
be
just
open
do
to a
flat,
public
right?
vote.
Yeah, if it's more than the 4% increase
Right.
and you all pass it, it could be potentially recalled by citizens.
Right,
Correct.
but that's the only way to stop the decrease
The decrease in rate, yes.
for property tax, yeah.
But the decrease in rate does not equal a decrease in revenue, which is the other part
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
of the equation.
But it's such a,
Right, it's fractional,
Yeah.
but what matters is what's received or collected, right, for budget purposes.
yeah, I agree.
I would say it's a sign of a healthy economy to the extent that you can lower the rate and still collect the same amount of tax. So as as an economic indicator, I think that's a sign of vitality as opposed to one that's negative.
But Leah would say on the impact on the budget, though.
So in total, the projected impact is about $90,000, which is not insignificant, right?
Yeah.
To me. But that one is one that if you do need further discussion and we could come back and talk about it more, that one, we do have time to discuss it further in the budget workshops or things like that, if you're not comfortable moving forward, since that officially isn't passed until August.
So you want to wait, you feel better.
No, I
More
mean,
time.
it's,
The balanced fund budget.
That's
it's
fine.
decreasing, but
You can always change it if you do something tonight, you can always change it, but I'm just worried about the fund balance target.
Getting a little bit of direction when you're looking at the number of lines that are in the budget, it gives us a chance to turn away from those lines and focus on the others on the expense side. So, you know, it does help to have a general direction for staff.
Okay, let's move this meeting along. The chair has asked the question, is there a motion pending on the budget presentation that we just received? Is there a motion?
I didn't put in motion form, but I will make a motion that we level the alcohol tax at 5%
Across the board.
across the board.
Properly moved, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Other questions or comments? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Thank you. Is there another motion pending from this discussion tonight? Is there another motion on tax rates?
I would make a motion that we not raise the insurance premium tax at this time.
Let's stay with the compensating rate or not? Not at all?
The insurance premium, he's saying.
Is-
Oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry, insurance
I'm
premium.
sorry.
My-
I may not have said that, but
It'd be zero, right? There's been a motion.
Second.
Is there a second? To not increase the insurance premium rate from 0 to 2%.
Correct.
It's what's been suggested by staff. Any questions or
we'll plug in.
comments? All those in favor say aye to not increase the insurance premium.
Aye.
aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We can change, oh, I should keep seeing that. Is there another motion?
I'm all out of motions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You
Ms.
might want to
Lewis.
wait till Jenny's here for that one, too.
All right. Okay, let's move along then.
Good enough. Thank you, guys.
Ms. Compton, you have the next one.
Yeah. So with each financial institution that we utilize, every bank, we have in place an agreement, which is called a collateral security agreement, which helps to protect city funds. So every bank account, well, I apologize, it's by tax ID number. So every person who has a bank account has a protected limit by the federal government through the FDIC up to $250,000. So if your bank, crashes, which we have seen happen in the last, couple of years, you have protection of up to $250,000 by the federal government. In addition to that, to ensure that public funds are not at risk, we put in place with each financial institution what's called a collateral security agreement to protect funds above $250,000. So essentially, the bank will buy securities and stocks. Sometimes they'll do what's called a letter of credit to protect our funds above that amount. And we have an account with Monticello Bank that's about to reach that $250,000 limit. And we want to get an updated collateral security agreement with them on file. So that's what
Okay.
this is for.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-02-2603.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you all. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Morgan, you've been waiting very patiently.
Yes, thank you all. A couple of easy ones tonight. The first item you have is every year we apply for the Municipal Road Aid Cooperative Agreement with KYTC, which is a program in which we get our funding from the gas tax in a little more organized fashion. Instead of monthly payments, we get 3 payments in 60% in August, 30% in February, and the remainder at the end of the fiscal year. So we get our money a little earlier. It also allows us to be part of a emergency fund that if we have a situation with our streets that we need emergency funding for, we can apply to them for that. We've done this past 2 years, and they're just asking us now if we're interested in being part of the program for fiscal year '25. And if so, I'll come back later with an agreement that they'll send to us probably in May or so at that time.
Is there a motion to participate or to not participate?
I'll move to accept Resolution 2024-02-2604.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed likewise, motion carries. Next item, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, we received bids on February 20th for our annual mowing contract for all the city property. We received 4 bids. The low bid was in the amount of $324,000 from Johnson Lawn and Landscape. The other 4 bids were kind of ranging from that amount up into the low 400,000s. So we feel like this is a pretty competitive price. It's slightly higher than last year, but we added a significant amount of acreage at Millennium Park to the contract this year. Last year, they just mowed the back, everything kind of past the ball fields towards Lenox. This year, we've brought in more of the area in the front. Not everything but ball fields is in the contract this year. So the soccer fields and the baseball fields will still be mowed by Parks and Rec staff, but everything else will be part of the contract. So actually pleasantly surprised with the bids, considering, cost of everything's going up. So fits in line with where we thought it would be. We included in your all's packet this year the list of properties that they bid, so you can see the extent of it. And 324,000 seems like a lot, but like we discussed last year, if we tried to staff up internally to do this work, we would spend significantly more than 324,000. So we recommend award of the bid to Johnson Lawn and Landscape.
Do we know about these folks?
Not a whole lot. We've got a couple references that we've called and talked to, feel pretty good about. And, it's going to be a little step up for them. But we had a similar situation with the contractor last year, which was, there was a few issues, but they worked through them. It's a big contract, but it's also very straightforward. Public Works, Rick Henry down there, he keeps an eye on this contract for me and keeps them on their toes. So they came to the pre-bid. They rode around with Rick to look at the sites, so we feel comfortable they have knowledge of what they bid. So we're going to try it out. Is the best I could say. We think this will work out, but we're giving somebody a chance here to kind of step up.
It's not the one that was there last year?
No.
So did they bid?
M&D Landscaping was the bid. They
That's
were
what I
the
thought.
second place bidder this
Okay.
year.
Any other comments or questions?
I'll move to accept Resolution 2024-02-2605.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now, I will ask a question now, if you don't mind.
No, what? Okay.
Taking out a bigger load at Millennium, does that help your staffing?
Yes, yeah, we're definitely planning for a spring where we're going to need to staff back up at Millennium Park. So this is going to take a big load off of them, especially April, May, when we're doing a lot of mowing, and we also have soccer and baseball and softball all going on at the same time. So this will help a ton.
But you won't reduce any staff or you
No,
may?
we're not planning
Okay.
to.
No real cost savings internally, but maybe a little more quality on one end of the park.
That's what we're hoping, yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed likewise, motion carries. Nothing but great comments about the sod on the soccer field.
Yeah,
Man,
thank you.
Good comments.
Mayor, I do have one thing I failed to mention. We have a major water leak, water main break. It was near the intersection of Godby on Perryville Road. It affected from there west, which is all of Perryville. Keep in mind, you're putting in a redundant water line, so in the future, it will be less likely that a single leak will cause this problem. Right now, you have a single line that goes west of the water tower at Tuggle that serves Perryville West, and so that did impact us tonight. That is back in service, but there is a boil water advisory for everything west of there, including all of Perryville.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there a motion to go into a very brief executive session tonight?
Do we need one?
To keep-
Personnel.
I said brief.
I motion to go into executive session, discuss personnel matter pursuant to KRS 61-810-1F.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Going into a brief executive session? Come back here. Oh. There are some motions to be made. Chair is open to any recommendations or motions.
I'll move to accept the resignation of Connor Fair from Parks and, or actually, I guess that's Public Works and Parks Direction, Parks and
Yeah, would you guys
Recreation.
pick that up?
Commissioner, if you could reword your motion, I believe your motion is to accept the recommendation for termination of that particular individual, not resignation.
Oh, okay. I accept the recommendation for resignation of Connor Fair.
Termination, sir. The recommendation for termination.
Okay? Take,
That's a mouthful.
take three. I recommend we accept the recommendation for termination of Connor Fair in the Parks and Rec Department.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments, questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Next one.
I also make a motion to accept the recommendation for the termination of Evan Teague from the Parks and Rec Department.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Thank you all.
Thank you. Staff is recommending the hiring of Nick Adams to the position of police officer.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor of hiring Mr. Adams, say aye.
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 Those opposed, likewise, motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Adams. Next.
Staff is recommending the hiring of Hannah Krebs to the position of Stormwater Program Coordinator.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you all. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, congratulations, ma'am. Is there another one?
Yes, we are asking you to accept the resignation of Jessica Gaskin from the utility clerk position.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you all. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Is there anything else?
That's all I have.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you all. All those in